I'm Charity Nebbe, and this is Greetings from Iowa. Telling stories is one of the most powerful means that we have to influence, teach, and inspire. It helps us forge connections among people and ideas. Coming up on this episode, we'll meet a New York Times best-selling author who lives in Northwest Iowa. And I'll talk with Caleb Rainey, an inspirational poet and performer. Join me as we explore the incredible stories of our state, next on Greetings from Iowa.
Funding for Greetings from Iowa is provided by...
With our Iowa roots and Midwestern values, Farmers Mutual Hail is committed to offering innovative farm insurance for America's farmers, just as we have for 6 generations. Farmers Mutual Hail, America's crop insurance company.
The Pella Roll Screen Foundation is a proud supporter of Iowa PBS. Pella Windows and Doors strives to better our communities and build a better tomorrow.
Iowa has over 800 miles of interstate highways, over 3,800 miles of U.S. highways, over 5,100 miles of state highways, and over 65,000 miles of gravel roads. And the stories of how these roads came to be is sometimes equally as impressive. Just off of I-80 between Council Bluffs and Des Moines sits a 26-mile stretch of road with these. White painted telephone poles, hundreds of them, connect 5 communities between Adair and Dexter. While these might look like a novel roadside attraction, it is actually a historically significant part of Iowa's highway system, and it was once part of the road that connected America from coast to coast. At the turn of the 20th century, Iowa's road system was a mess. The majority of roads were no more than dirt paths, and very few were paved. Attempting to cross the state during inclement weather might mean being stranded in mud or snow, sometimes for days. The roads were so bad, Iowa was called the Gumbo State, referring to the thick, dark soil, which for agriculture is great, but for road material is pretty poor. As automobiles became more and more popular throughout the country and the need for intrastate travel increased, Governor B.F. Carroll assembled delegates from all over the state for the Good Roads Convention in Des Moines. The delegates decided that the river-to-river road from Davenport to Council Bluffs would be the solution to Iowa's road woes. Towns fought fiercely during the early days of road development. Where the roads went, money would follow. Towns began to build roads at an incredible pace. After the Good Roads Convention, the original White Pole Road was designated and followed along a railroad route from Des Moines to Council Bluffs. Poles along the route were painted white. This helped motorists know that they were still on the correct route, kind of like an early form of GPS. The communities that were part of this Great White Way, as it was then called, promised motorists a straighter, leveler, and shorter route across the state with a town every 5 to 6 miles along the way. The Great White Way Association plotted their Davenport to Council Bluffs route on county maps and submitted their registration with a $5 fee. The commission then awarded a certificate to the route on July 30th, 1914, making it the first certified route in Iowa. After various mergers with other roads and name changes, sections of the Great White Way became part of U.S. Highway 6, which at one point was the longest continuous east-west route in the United States, stretching from Cape Cod, Massachusetts to Long Beach, California. But by the mid-1960s, something changed.
The Act is the interstate highway system, a 41,000-mile network of our most important roads.
After the passage of the Federal Aid Highway Act, the new interstate highway system connected the country in a new way. By 1965, Interstate 80 saw completion. This new 4-lane route would fundamentally change the way Americans traveled. And the Great White Way, like so many other highways in the country, diminished in popularity. In 2002, this old highway was renamed to White Pole Road as a tribute to the original Great White Way, and poles along this 26-mile stretch have once again been painted white. This highway is a small piece of Iowa transportation history, and it's really an artifact of the ingenuity and tenacity Iowa towns had during the automobile boom of the early 20th century. If there's ever a time when you're driving from Des Moines to Council Bluffs, it might be worth it to pull off on one of the exits and experience this stretch of road to get a sense of what it was like to drive the Great White Way.
My name is Nicole Bart, and I'm a novelist. I wanted to be a writer ever since I was a little girl. I was born with a birth defect and ended up in the hospital a lot when I was young. I had lots of surgeries, and it was just really traumatic, and really the only thing that got me through is my parents would pick up a big bag of books from the library, and I'd sit on my dad's lap or my mom, whoever was with me, and they'd just kind of tent a blanket around me and read. And it was escape and comfort and just a way to deal with what was happening. So I learned really early on that books could take me to a different place, and it didn't take me very long to realize that I wanted to write them too.
So welcome to Beaverdale Books. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Alice, for hosting. Tonight, I am super pleased to be introducing best-selling author Nicole Bart and her 10th, yes, I said 10th novel, Everything We Didn't Say, a family drama that follows a mother who must confront the dark, life-changing summer of the infamous Murphy murders in order to reclaim the daughter she left behind.
I realized that what was on my nightstand, what I was reading and enjoying, were mysteries. So I was a little intimidated to write in that genre. It's really hard and takes just a lot of work to hold all of those things together. The red herrings and the foreshadowing, and you have to have twists, and it all needs to make sense at the end. And it just was really intimidating. So I started putting elements of mystery into my books, and in the last couple I have just really gone for domestic suspense, mystery, thriller, and have really enjoyed it. All of my books are rooted in the Midwest. This is where I grew up, and it's where I live now. I think that writing novels based in this area gives me the opportunity to really explore characters and the way that they interact with each other, and the way that, both sides of the coin, things that are really beautiful about the area and things that are a little bit harder. And I love wrestling with that. I love looking at the way that this affects communities and the way that it affects my individual characters. I think it's just an especially rich place to set a mystery. What's so neat about Everything We Didn't Say is it's almost the book that wasn't. I started it over 3 years ago. I thought I had a fantastic idea, handed it in to my agent, and she really quickly emailed me back and said, "Oh, honey, this is not done." It's a great first draft, it's a good beginning, but it needs to be rewritten. So rewrote it a second time and turned it into my agent again. And she very promptly called me back and said, "Oh, honey, good job. Nice second try." So I started over again and wrote the book a third time. And finally, that's when it worked. But I also went back to my roots. So when I started writing books for publication, I would always go buy a 5-pack of legal pads and my favorite pens and sit down in a room and write it longhand. And I wrote my first 9 books longhand. And I tried to type this book twice, and it didn't work. And it wasn't until I sat down with a pen and paper and kind of started all over again, went back to my roots and wrote it out, that it started to make sense, and the book came to be. I did it from the very beginning. I find that I'm more creative that way. It silences my inner critic. So instead of typing a word and then having the opportunity to delete, I just keep going. And you can't erase it. I'm writing with pen, so if there's something I don't like, I might run a line through it. But more often than not, when I go back to that, I realize that there was something in there that I might want to keep, or that's actually pretty good. So it allows me to just keep going, to silence my inner critic, and I think that it completely accesses a different part of my brain. I don't know why, but I'm far more just creative, and the words flow better when I write longhand.
You titled my next book.
Yeah, I did title your next book.
Yeah, he titled my next 3 books.
I have 5 kids, ranging in age from 11 to 19. My husband is the Dean of Chapel and Chief of Staff at a university in our area. We have biological children, we have adopted children. And yeah, it's just been a really big part of our lives, weaving our family together from lots of different places. My husband is Canadian, I'm American, so we are all just a mishmash of citizenships. We're from all sorts of different places. After the adoption of our second son, we were in Ethiopia for 3 weeks, my husband and I and our new son. And we stayed in a missionary guest house across the hall from a gentleman that we became really good friends with. So we were there for about 3 weeks, and in that time we just developed a relationship that we didn't want to end. So when we took off and he went home to Liberia and we went home to the United States, we stayed in contact. Liberia had just come out of its second civil war, and they really needed help. So our friend's brother had taken in 35 war orphans and was trying to provide for them and didn't really know how. So we started with a child sponsorship program for those 35 kids. And in the, it's been 15 years now, in the years in between, it has turned into a commercial farm, 20-some churches, 6 schools, 3 children's homes that serve over 150 kids. We do community redevelopment projects, and just wherever God leads us.
She asked if you think you're going to move on from mysteries into a different genre.
Yeah. So I'm kind of an odd person, or an odd author, in that I have way more ideas than I will probably ever be able to publish. I would love to write fantasy. I still pinch myself every day. I've wanted to do this my whole life and just never imagined that it would happen, and it did. And when I was a little girl, my dad used to introduce me to people by saying, "This is my daughter, Nicole. She's going to be a published author someday." And it embarrassed me so much, especially when I was in my teens. He did it when I was in my teens. I found it really embarrassing, and yet at the same time, there was never a point in my life where somebody told me, "You can't do that," or "You're from a small town in Iowa, this isn't going to happen for you, just give that up and do something else." And it gave me the confidence and the encouragement that I needed to seize that opportunity when it came.
I'm Amy Bergmeyer, and I am a professional performer, mostly musical theater. Long story short, I ended up moving to New York about 10 years ago. As it turned out, my career path changed for various reasons, and I felt like there was nothing else to do than to move to New York. I had to learn everything just by grit and resilience and sort of climb my way to the top. And the competition there is indescribable. I mean, you have to be in line on the sidewalk at 4 o'clock in the morning and hope to be one of the 2 people in your group of non-union talent that gets seen that day. And I did that for about a year before I started getting callbacks and finally getting the chance to hone my craft. And then it was it just all dominoed from there. Nearly 99.9% of all the actors in New York City, unless they're from New York City, fled just like I did. It is so expensive to live there, and without job, for over a year. Not very many people can handle that. While I was in New York, I feel like I was in a place where I could thrive. I had all of the artistic and creative outlets where I could tap into. And although I love Iowa, the pace here is so different, especially on my parents' farm, okay? Like literally in the middle of a cornfield. The stillness and the quiet sometimes is deafening. I went sort of in a tailspin, I'm not gonna lie. It was really, I went through some grim times, I did. It was hard. I just wanted to be able to be creative in ways that I didn't feel like I could be here. I didn't feel like I was understood here in like what I bring to the table. I didn't feel like it was valued. I lost my apartment. I lost my home. I lost my livelihood. I lost my dreams. I lost everything. And in some ways it felt like I lost my identity. You know, and I had to really embrace the quiet and find how I could cope with that. I had friends that were like me that went into Great Depressions because their lives were flipped upside down. I had others that pivoted with purpose right out of the chute and have flipped into parallel careers in, you know, other complete different things that are still creative, but like in a coffee shop, they have changed in that direction, or teaching. A lot of people have gone into like voice coaching and things like that. And a lot of people went back to school too.
4, a 1.
I just knew inside of me that I needed to find people and be with people that I felt were creative and that also defined themselves as being creative. And so I look around in Creston, Iowa, where do you find such a group of people? And it just dawned on me, what about SWIC? I remember they have a music program. So I contacted Dr. Fox, Dr. Jeremy Fox at SWIC, and we ended up having, I think it was a 2-hour phone conversation the week before classes were to start. I was just inquiring about the studio here, and by the end of that conversation, I signed up to be a student again. What's the alto? No, sorry, smack. Thank you. Pre-pandemic, I had already had some of these thoughts in my head about rolling into voice acting. So I had already started taking some special classes and different workshops with special coaches and people in New York. So I had some of that. And in New York, pre-pandemic, I would just be the actor that walks in and talks behind a microphone, and there would be an engineer in that studio that would just hit all the buttons and edit my audio together, and voila. That's not how it is anymore. You have to have a professional home studio to be competitive in this field because of the pandemic. Well, little did they know they were going to get me for so long. I mean, at age 43, a child of theirs is moving back in with them. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? And thank God I have parents who are able to accept me back into their home like that. And they just wanted the best for me too. And if it was something that I could kind of pivot into a different direction and eventually rejoin the workforce and have employment again, they were in support of that. It's to the point now that I'm able to put my education into action. And I am mentally in a better place and have accepted this is where I'm going to be for a while. And I'm able to kind of roll forward. I will resume musical theater when that time allows, but it is a good idea for me to have a parallel career.
So that you don't move too far stage left. If you could end up somewhere around 0 to 2 to do your hop and your circle.
Here in Des Moines, or here in Iowa rather, theater has been halted as well. And I had the chance to audition for the first production in 14 months in Des Moines called Some Enchanted Evening. And it's at the Des Moines Playhouse. And that's where I got started, right? That's where I was Roxy Hart in Chicago and a number of other shows that kind of really cemented this acting bug inside of me. And it's just meant so much to be back on this stage. I am so much stronger than I ever knew, and I was put to the test. You know, wow. I feel like my resilience is at the core of who I am. It always has been. What I learned about myself is how desperate I am to sing and to be on stage, and how deep that is inside of me. It is, I believe, my purpose on this earth. There's nothing else I would rather do. You know, sure, I could go into advertising. I have a degree in that. I could go into journalism. I have a degree in, you know, I could go in these different directions. But at the end of the day, what is going to satisfy my soul the most is singing and acting and being on stage and in commercial venues across America or on Broadway. You know, all of those specialty. You know, I love the polish of commercial theater and what it's all about. That's really special to me.
Caleb Rainey is a poet, spoken word artist, educator, and activist. He has published 2 collections of poetry, including Look, Black Boy, and Heart Notes. And he is here with me right now. Caleb, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start by going back in time to when you fell in love with poetry. Can you tell me what it was that just really grabbed you?
For me, it was really the power of the words, right? There's this vulnerability that's in poetry that I really, really was attached to. I first performed my poetry on a stage, and so I was with people. I was experiencing poetry in this very live, active moment. And so it was really, really fun to just be vulnerable with people.
So, when you published this collection, Look, Black Boy, it's a lot about growing up as a black boy, a black man in the Midwest. You grew up in Missouri, you've been in Iowa City for quite a while, and this book it's so powerful, but part of what makes it so powerful is that you've written it in 2 different perspectives. You've written it for me, for the outsider, to try to understand your feelings, and you've written it for yourself and for people who share your experience. Putting these poems on paper and sending them out into the world, what has that allowed you to do?
It has allowed me to have some of the most world-changing conversations. It has also taught me a lot of things, but what it's done is it's given me a space to talk with other Black students and Black young people who are trying to figure out what it means to be Black in America, in the Midwest, what it means to be growing up in this time, also where race is being talked about.
I would love for you to perform for us one of your poems from this collection, from Look, Black Boy. And tell me a little bit about the poem you're going to do for us.
So I'm going to do If You Give a Black Boy $1, which I used to work with young children, and so this was derived from the idea of if you give a mouse a muffin or a pig a pancake or any of those kinds of things.
I remember them well.
Oh yeah. And for me, I was thinking, I love that structure. Now what can I do in commenting on Blackness and what it looks like to have young Blackness? What does that look like? And so this piece is really going to be talking about the progression of young Black thought and hopes, and also kind of the cyclical nature that our system works with, and kind of the problem there too.
This is If You Give a Black Boy $1 by Caleb Rainey.
If you give a black boy $1, he's gonna wanna shop. He'll think of Hot Wheels and video games, new kicks and a bike to do tricks with. His wish list is limitless, but he'll settle for food. If you let a black boy shop for food, he's gonna wanna eat. He'll think of fried chicken, collard greens, mama's mac and cheese, granddad's black-eyed peas, and granny's banana pudding. The hunger inside of him growing soul food dreams. But he'll settle for McDonald's. If you let a black boy eat, he's gonna wanna drink. He'll imagine Kool-Aid and lemonade, and on a special day, grape soda. The thirst will make his mouth dry, tongue twisting itself, desperate rain dance waiting for a drop. But he'll settle for water. Pray it's clean this time. If you let a black boy drink, he's gonna wanna live. He'll see himself playing ball, winning rings and trophies, leaving a legacy. He'll see himself designing skyscrapers, creating a cloud's rival, reaching for the sun. He'll see himself in space, stepping on planets, discovering the beyond. He'll see himself paint a galaxy, constellations on a cotton canvas capturing magnificence. He'll see his future. He's gonna wanna live, but he'll settle for $1, all that you're willing to give.
Thanks for joining us as we explore the people, communities, and culture of our state. We'll see you next time for another Greetings from Iowa.
Funding for Greetings from Iowa is provided by...
With our Iowa roots and Midwestern values, Farmers Mutual Hail is committed to offering innovative farm insurance for America's farmers, just as we have for 6 generations. Farmers Mutual Hail, America's crop insurance company.
The Pella Rolls Green Foundation is a proud supporter of Iowa PBS. Pella Windows and Doors strives to better our communities and build a better tomorrow.